The whisper of the sea still pulses through the wet planks beneath my feet. Our ship, worn and weary from months adrift, finally sighs against the sands of a distant shore. I stand at the edge of the deck, watching as the fog rolls over the dunes and into the skeletal arms of unfamiliar trees. The morning is pale, as if the sun itself hesitates to shine too brightly upon this place. We had come searching for promise, an English foothold in the New World. Yet, as I stepped onto Roanoke Island for the first time, it felt not like a beginning, but a pause between breaths. The air was thick with moisture, and something else, something that clung to the skin like a forgotten name. The others disembark behind me, one by one. The sand gives slightly under our boots. It is quiet, save for the distant sound of gulls and the rhythmic lap of waves that seem to murmur in an old tongue. I look back toward the horizon, our vessel bobbing gently like a cradle, and wonder if this shore will ever feel like home. We do not arrive with celebration. There is no cheering, only a sober reverence, as if we've disturbed something sacred by our presence. Even the trees, tall and unmoved, observe us like sentinels of a truth we do not yet know. I carry a crate in my arms, salted meats, cloth, a diary half filled with hope. Each object feels heavier in this new land. I hear someone mutter behind me, "Strange birds," and I follow their gaze. A flock of black-winged creatures wheel above us, not quite crows, not quite anything I've seen before. They make no sound. Already, the boundaries between what is real and what is imagined begin to blur. Our appointed governor, John White, instructs us to begin assembling the outpost. Wooden stakes are planted, tents are unfurled. Children clamber over the sandy knolls, their laughter cautious but bright. I notice one of them, Thomas, I think, stop and stare into the trees. He tilts his head as though listening. But when I ask what he hears, he shrugs and smiles, too young to put the feeling into words. We build with haste. The wind grows stronger in the afternoons, as if urging us to complete the task. By nightfall, the palisades are half raised, and fires crackle in circles. Shadows dance along the trunks of trees, and the smoke curls upward, mixing with low-lying mist. That night, I cannot sleep. Not for fear, not exactly, but because the air feels full of eyes. I lie on my back, gazing at the pale sky beyond the opening of my tent. No stars, just a soft gray blanket that seems to press gently downward. Somewhere in the distance, a drumbeat, soft and irregular, rises and falls like the heartbeat of the island itself. Governor White says we must hold fast, that the soil is fertile and the coast is well placed. He speaks with the certainty of a man clinging to logic in a place that seems to resist it. Yet there are signs, subtle ones. A broken arrow found near the shore, its tip of obsidian instead of flint. A circle of stones behind a hill arranged not by chance. Fish laid out along the edge of the forest as if an offering or a warning. None of us placed them there. The local tribes watch us from afar. We have yet to meet them in full, though messengers say they are cautious, not cruel. Still, something in the land keeps them distant. Even the animals behave strangely. A fox stares from the edge of camp for hours before vanishing, leaving no prints. A deer approaches our well one dawn, lowers its head as if to drink, then looks directly at me. Its eyes are golden and too knowing. Each morning, the colony rises with a kind of dreamy determination. We go through the motions, digging, building, planting, yet the island seems untouched by our presence, as if it is absorbing us slowly, piece by piece, memory by memory. I begin writing more often in my diary, though the pages do not seem to hold the words as they once did. Ink feathers at the edges. Sentences drift into metaphors before I've fully formed a thought. Perhaps the island is not a place, I wrote once. Perhaps it is a veil, and we have stepped through it without knowing. At night, I hear voices near the shoreline. They do not speak English, they do not speak Algonquian. They are not quite language, but a hum, like wind over glass, like distant lullabies sung in reverse. When I wake, there is no one there. Still, no one speaks of leaving. Whether out of duty or pride or some deeper spell, we remain. We bury our hesitations beneath layers of daily tasks and pretend not to notice when things go missing: a spade, a spool of thread, a bundle of maize. Or when people pause mid-conversation, suddenly unsure of what they were saying. There is a woman named Eliza who swears she saw a ship on the horizon, but only for a moment. No one else did. There is a boy who claims to dream of the island speaking in colors, of green that means hunger and blue that means silence. One morning the air smells different, earthier, like soil turned over after a long sleep. We find symbols carved into the trees, not English, not native, circles within circles, spirals, a shape like an open eye. I trace one of the carvings with my finger. The bark is warm to the touch, though the air is cool. Later that evening, as the fires die down and the drums in the distance resume, I feel something change. The island no longer feels like something we arrived at. It feels like something we returned to. The fire has gone out, but the smoke still lingers. I lie in the narrow bedding I brought from Plymouth, thinner than I remember, and listen to the canvas of the tent fluttering like the breath of something alive. Outside, the wind shifts with strange rhythm, as though it circles rather than passes. It rattles the drying wood and sighs through the gaps in the fort's wall. Tonight is our first night sleeping in this place. Most have gone quiet. Only a few voices still murmur. Husbands whispering to wives, guards exchanging low observations at the edge of the stockade. Somewhere, someone coughs and is answered by the creak of the newly built watchtower. The night smells of salt and resin, of smoke and unfamiliar damp. I try to focus on the mundane, the ache in my feet, the scratch of wool against my neck, but my mind drifts toward the tree line. I cannot help but feel that the woods watch us, not with anger, but with a kind of still amusement. Earlier, just after twilight, I walked to the edge of the clearing. There, with the sea behind me and the trees ahead, I stood alone and listened. Not to the waves, they were calm, but to the spaces in between. I heard something delicate, the patter of tiny feet, a faint wooden chime, the brush of cloth against bark, and then silence, as though I had arrived too late to witness something secret. The air was cold and clear, yet not empty. Back at camp, the others gathered around the central fire, though the flames did little to warm the group. There was something brittle about our laughter. A boy, Nathaniel, told a story of ghosts that steal shoes in the night. No one laughed. His mother hushed him quickly. I caught the eye of Thomasine, a widow from Sussex who lost her husband at sea. She stood near the fire, her hair lit by its glow, and for a moment she looked not afraid, but distant, as if she already belonged to the island more than to us. We ate sparingly, biscuits gone soft from the journey, dried meat, a few surviving apples. The silence between bites was louder than any prayer. Even the children chewed with a kind of cautious reverence, glancing often toward the trees. Governor White spoke briefly, just a few words about unity, about the honor of this undertaking. His voice held its usual calm, but his eyes flicked repeatedly toward the watchman. He too feels it, the undercurrent, the breath beneath the land. I fall into shallow sleep. In dreams, I walk the same shoreline I walked by day. But the sand is black now, and the waves do not crash, they breathe. I see shapes in the fog, lithe and slow-moving, neither man nor beast. I raise my hand to call out, but no sound leaves my mouth. My voice is part of the mist now. When I wake, I find a feather resting on my chest. Black, glossy, curved at the tip. I do not recall any birds near my tent. I place it in the pocket of my coat and say nothing to the others. Before dawn, I help the guards stoke the new fire. One of them, Merrick, tells me he saw a flicker of torchlight in the woods during the night, but it vanished as he approached. He thought perhaps it was one of the men. When we accounted for them, no one was missing. Maybe it was a reflection, he says, but he does not believe it. By morning, the sky is bruised with soft indigo, streaked with ribbons of rose. The air feels heavier than the day before. I help gather water from the stream, clear, cold, with a faint metallic tang. On the walk back, I notice a trail of small footprints near the water's edge. Bare feet, 5 toes, not quite child-sized, not quite adult. They lead into the woods. I mention it to no one. We begin planting near the central clearing, maize mostly, and beans brought from the last voyage. The soil is dark and soft, damp from recent rain. It seems to yield willingly, though I find bits of bone in the earth. Not animal, not human, too small. Bird, perhaps, or not. As I dig, I hum softly. It is a tune I remember from my mother, one she used to sing as I drifted to sleep. The melody feels older here, as if I am not singing it, but remembering it from another life. Around midday, Governor White holds a small council. Supplies will be rationed. We are to avoid venturing too far from camp until relations with nearby tribes are properly re-established. He speaks of the Croatoan, once allies, now distant, and urges us to rebuild trust. He mentions the prior settlement briefly, as if saying too much might awaken ghosts. Indeed, we are not the first to set foot here. Years ago, in this same place, a small colony vanished. Only a skeleton crew remained when we returned. Some were found dead, others had disappeared. One word was carved into the trunk of a tree: Croatoan. No one has explained what it meant. Some say they were attacked. Others whisper they were taken in, absorbed, or transformed. A few believe they simply walked into the forest one day and never looked back. I do not know what I believe. After the meeting, I find myself drawn again to the woods. This time, I stand just beyond the tree line. I place a hand on one of the tall pines, its bark rough and fragrant. It feels ancient, older than England, older than names. A soft breeze carries the scent of honey and moss. I close my eyes. And I hear something. Not with my ears exactly, but somewhere deeper, in my chest perhaps, or my thoughts. A tone, low and resonant. Not a word, but a presence. Not a warning, but a welcome laced with caution. You are seen. That is the feeling. Back at camp, Thomasine is singing softly to one of the children. It is a lullaby I do not recognize, yet I find myself humming along. A strange synchronicity. She smiles at me, but her eyes hold a question neither of us yet knows how to ask. Night comes quickly again. The tents rustle, the fire breathes, and I, lying beneath the woven stars of my own uncertain future, begin to feel the island settle into my bones. We have arrived, but I do not know if we have been received. I begin to wake before the others, not from habit nor necessity, but from something less definable, a presence perhaps, or a rhythm beneath sleep that stirs me to the surface of consciousness. The early light, pale and gray, slants through the stitched seam of my tent. I sit up slowly, muscles stiff, eyes gritty. The fire is no longer smoke, but ash. A few embers pulse in the center, like red, dreaming eyes. Around me, the camp is still. A few muffled snores drift from other tents. Somewhere near the storehouse, a wooden beam creaks with the first movements of morning. I pull on my coat, the feather still tucked into its inner pocket, and step outside. The air is sharper today, touched by the cool of forest dew and the bitter trace of something sweet rotting. That scent again, not unpleasant, but strange, like overripe fruit or wet bark bruised by storm. I move toward the edge of the woods, where the trees thicken and the light grows soft. The morning hush is deep here, yet filled with small sounds. The chatter of unseen birds, the distant snapping of twigs, and the occasional low groan of wood settling, as if the forest breathes from deep within its trunked lungs. And then I hear it. Not a bird, not a breeze, a pattern. 3 steps, a pause, then 2 more, 2 deliberate. I freeze, my heart pressing against my ribs, but my feet remain still. Whoever or whatever is there does not move again. I wait, watching the shadows between the trees, waiting for motion. There is none, only silence that stretches and stretches until it nearly becomes a shape in itself. I begin to walk back toward camp, slowly, but not before noticing a mark on the forest floor. A small print, shallow and soft at the heel, as though left by a foot barely heavier than a child's. That day, I say nothing. Instead, I help repair one of the carts damaged during the landing. Merrick joins me, his fingers red with resin. We work in rhythm, our words few. At one point, he glances over his shoulder toward the trees and murmurs, "Do you hear it too?" I pause. "Hear what?" He shrugs. "Nothing. That's what's strange." Later, during midday rest, Governor White gathers us for instruction on fortifying the perimeter. He speaks with calm conviction, yet his eyes betray a flicker of unease. I catch him glancing down at the map he carries, a wrinkled sketch marked with familiar names, and one large, empty space, labeled only Uncharted Interior. He says we'll avoid the deep woods for now. He says it like a prayer. Sometime in the afternoon, a group of us, myself, Thomasine, Merrick, and young Daniel, venture slightly beyond the camp's edge to scout suitable land for additional planting. We move slowly, the leaves underfoot damp and slick. The forest here feels more enclosed, the canopy weaving a dim net above us. And then, just past a cluster of ferns, we find something unusual. A circle of stones. Not piled, not scattered, arranged. 12 smooth rocks laid evenly in the shape of a ring, each one about the size of a child's head. At the center, a carved wooden idol, half buried in earth and moss. It depicts a humanoid figure, long limbs, no face, arms bent upward as if mid-dance or prayer. Thomasine kneels beside it, her fingers brushing over the wood. "It's not recent," she whispers, "but it isn't ancient either." We consider taking it. Governor White would want to see it, surely. But something holds us back. Daniel steps forward and drops a single corn kernel into the center of the circle, just one. Then, without a word, he turns and begins to walk back toward camp. None of us speak of it afterward. That night, the wind changes. It comes from inland, carrying a different kind of scent, smoke and pine, but also clay and something metallic, like blood left too long in the sun. I lie awake, listening again. This time, I do not imagine it. A rustle, a whisper, and then laughter. Faint, feminine, too soft to be real, yet it curves around the tents like a ribbon. I rise and walk outside. A few others are awake, Merrick, again, pacing near the lookout. One of the children's mothers cradles her daughter, who cries in her sleep but does not wake. At the edge of the trees, I pause. There, hanging from a low branch, I see it. A small figure woven from twigs and twine. It turns slowly in the breeze, spinning like a pendulum. Its limbs are knotted. Its head is a bundle of moss tied tight with hair. Human hair, I'm almost sure. I do not touch it. Instead, I whisper a word I don't recall learning, and it seems to fall out of my mouth on its own. Kanawake. It feels like it belongs here. The next morning, Governor White notices the tracks. Not one, but many, barefoot, surrounding the eastern side of the camp. They do not belong to any of us. They are small, scattered, spiraling, inward and outward like the petals of a strange flower. He calls a meeting. He calls a meeting. He suggests the Croatoan are observing us, testing us. He speaks of caution, diplomacy, but the truth hangs unspoken in the air. The Croatoan did not leave those twig figures, nor those circles, nor the song Merrick swears he heard just before dawn. A lullaby in a language that sounded like water over stone. As night falls once more, I lie in my tent and breathe slowly. My hands are sore from the day's work, but my mind drifts again to the forest. Its silences are louder than any voice. Its branches remember. I close my eyes and hear the footsteps again, this time not outside the tent, but within the folds of memory, in a place behind thought. They walk in a rhythm older than time. And I wonder, are we the first to hear them, or merely the latest to listen? The diary isn't locked, but it feels sealed. Governor White keeps it with him always, pressed tightly between the folds of his coat near his heart, as if it were not parchment and ink, but something more intimate, a second pulse, perhaps. I've seen him trace the edge of the cover with his fingers during our brief moments of stillness, as though remembering not what he wrote, but what he chose not to. He doesn't show it to many, but I am not many. One evening, after most have retired and the embers hiss like snakes in their final descent to ash, he finds me alone beneath the half-built tower. There is fatigue in his face, not just of the flesh, but of the spirit. A dimness around the eyes, a flicker of the question none of us dares ask aloud. "Walk with me," he says. We move without torches, letting the moonlight guide us along the compacted path that winds between the tents. Even the night insects have grown quieter, their usual rhythm broken, stilled, listening. When we reach the far edge of the camp, where the palisade fades into mist, he stops and pulls the book from his coat. "This," he murmurs, "was begun long before this voyage." He opens it slowly, the leather cracked and dry. The ink has faded in places, and some pages curl with moisture. But the words remain, some in his crisp hand, others more frayed, as though written in a state of agitation. I peer down and begin to read. March 1585. Departed Plymouth with dreams heavier than the hull could carry. Weather fair, spirits higher than the wind allowed. April 1585. First land in the New World. Eyes wide, ears sharper, all sounds seem larger here. May. First contact. Uneasy but not hostile. Exchanged words and woven gifts. Children of the tribe laughed at our hair. July. One man gone. No signs. Only his shoes by the river, and his name whispered strangely by a bird the next morning. I pause. "This is the first colony," I say quietly. White nods. Yes and no. He flips several pages forward. The handwriting changes, supplely at first, but then dramatically. The letters slant, the pressure varies. Some entries are scratched out and overwritten. I recognize his voice, then lose it, then find it again, like driftwood caught in shifting tides. September. The woods speak, not with words, but with arrangements. Stones, feathers, bones placed with intention. October. I dreamed of the sea, but I was underground. The waves were above me, and I could hear singing. November. The word Croatoan repeats itself in ash, in water, in the flight of birds. It wants to be known. December. We left, or tried, but some stayed, though they never said they would. I fear they were chosen. January. The island forgets quickly. The ink bleeds on that last sentence, as though the page wept while it was written. White closes the diary and places it gently into my hands. I kept it because I thought someone needed to remember, even if it wasn't me. He looks toward the forest. You see, I returned to England after that first attempt, but the island never let go. It is the first time I've heard him speak of that earlier voyage with such candor. Most assumed it was failure, bad planning, tribal hostility. But in his tone, I hear something else, reverence mixed with dread, as if he did not survive it, but was permitted to leave. What happened to the others? I ask softly. White closes his eyes. I don't know. Or I did once, and I've since forgotten. I hand the diary back, but he shakes his head. Keep it. You're writing too. Maybe your memory is stronger. That night, I place the book inside my tent, wrapped carefully in linen. But I do not sleep. I stare upward at the moonlight that filters through the thin fabric, and I listen, not to the forest, but to the pages now resting by my side. They hum. Not audibly, not even psychically, but in a way that is neither imagined nor entirely real. The weight of the words presses against the air. The next morning, when I open the diary again, the ink on one of the entries has smudged. We thought we were the colonists, but the island is the one that settles in us. I do not remember reading that line the night before. Outside, the sky is pale and unsure. Clouds drift without direction. Merrick and Thomasine are already up, tending to the maize patch. A new figure appears near the woods. Eliza, holding her baby tight, her expression unreadable. She turns, and in her hand I glimpse something small and dark, a stone, perfectly round, with a single line carved across its face. She says she found it by the well. When I ask her to describe it, she says it felt familiar, but she cannot say why. At midday, we hear a call from the southern edge of camp. Daniel has found something, more footprints, this time encircling one of the tents. And inside, a bundle of feathers arranged in a spiral. They are tied with thread from our own stores, yet no one claims to have made it. Governor White says nothing, but his fingers reach often for his coat, forgetting that the diary is no longer there. I continue to read it at night. One passage stands out, scrawled in a far corner of a page, nearly torn from the binding. The forest does not punish, it absorbs. We are not taken, we are translated. I do not understand, but I begin to notice small changes. Words I've written in my own journal shift spelling. A sentence I crafted the night before reads differently in the morning. Thomasine sings lullabies in a tongue she insists is English, but the cadences feel foreign. One night, as I drift between sleep and waking, I dream that I am the diary. My skin is parchment, my ribs are bindings, my thoughts are ink, and something is writing me, slowly, patiently, with a hand I cannot see. When I wake, the sun is rising over Roanoke. The mist parts like curtains drawn gently aside. And for the first time, I wonder, are we recording history, or are we becoming it? Each morning we wake with the quiet sense that something has changed, though we cannot name what. The land greets us not with storms or violence, but with patience, a kind of listening that feels more ominous than thunder. It does not push us away, it waits. The maize grows faster than we expect. Even White remarks on it. The shoots are thick, green, and unusually tall for the time of year. No signs of pests, no need for excessive watering. The ground itself seems eager. Thomasine jokes that the soil must like us more than we like it. Her smile is light, but I catch the flicker of uncertainty behind it. At the edge of the fields, strange plants appear, tall, waxy stalks with flowers like open mouths, their petals red as bruises. None of us planted them, yet there they are, swaying softly without breeze, as if nodding in agreement to something unspoken. One afternoon, Merrick and I dig a trench for runoff. Our spades hit something dense. Not stone, not wood, bone. A long femur, yellowed, with spiral carvings etched faintly into its surface. The symbols are geometric, triangles within circles, interlocking arcs. Not European, not clearly tribal. I want to show the governor, but Merrick insists we rebury it. He says, some things are better kept beneath us. That night, the dream comes again. I walk not on earth, but on pages, hundreds of them, fluttering and warm underfoot. As I step, the ink rises into the air and forms whispers, voices that speak not in sentences, but in weather. A thunderclap becomes a name, rain becomes regret, wind becomes memory. When I wake, my hands are stained faintly with what looks like soot. Others are having dreams now too. Eliza says she hears her mother's voice calling from the woods, though her mother died in Devon 2 years ago. Thomasine swears she dreamt of walking backward through her own birth. Governor White confesses that in sleep he sees the Queen's court, empty, abandoned, dust-covered, and lit by candlelight from beneath. The dreams are not frightening. They are familiar in ways we cannot explain. There is a moment midweek when we all gather around the center fire. It's not planned, it just happens, as if some shared instinct draws us inward. The air is cooler, the firelight soft, and no one speaks for a long time. We simply watch the flames. Then Daniel says it. I think the island wants us here. We do not laugh. No one tells him he's being childish. Instead, Merrick leans forward and asks, "And if it doesn't?" Daniel shrugs. "Then it will make us want to stay." A silence follows, the kind that moves like smoke, slow and absolute. White speaks. "We came to build something lasting, but perhaps the land doesn't need building. Perhaps it wants remembering." It's an odd thing to say, but it fits, like a piece in a puzzle we didn't realize we were assembling. Over the next few days, our work becomes more intuitive. We stop measuring precisely. We begin planting in spirals instead of rows. Some of us rearrange our tents without discussing it, forming a loose crescent shape that echoes the forest's bend. Thomasine ties feathers to the corners of her shelter. Merrick carves notches into his tools, symbols that resemble the ones we saw on the buried bone. None of this is commanded. We just do it. One morning, a young girl named Mary finds a ring of berries arranged in a perfect circle outside her tent. Each berry is untouched, gleaming, and nestled in a fold of woven grass. No one claims to have placed it there. She eats one against Eliza's protests. She says it tastes like her grandmother's jam, though she has never had jam and never met her grandmother. When I go to the river, I find stones stacked in a narrow tower, balanced impossibly high. 7 flat rocks, each smaller than the one below it. At the top, a single conch shell, dry and glistening. It is not from this river. I no longer ask who is doing these things. That night, a light rain falls. Soft, rhythmic, like the sound of hands brushing silk. It falls in patches, never across the whole camp, as if the rain itself chooses where to land. I watch it from the opening in my tent. It dances on Merrick's tent. It avoids mine completely. Later, I step out to walk. The earth is warm beneath my feet. The grass sweet-smelling and full of tiny white flowers I haven't seen before. I walk to the edge of the forest and stop. There, standing just beyond the trees, is a woman. She is not Croatoan. She is not English. She wears no clothes I recognize, just a flowing wrap of what looks like woven bark and lichen, and her hair is pale as moonlight. Her eyes are the green of wet moss, wide and unblinking. She does not speak, but I hear her voice, not in sound, in thought. She asks nothing. She offers no threat. She only feels. And what she feels is memory, ancient and tangled like roots buried too deep to name. I sense longing and sadness and welcome. Above all, recognition. I blink. She is gone. In her place, a stone, warm to the touch. It bears a single mark, half of the symbol carved into the femur we found. The other half, I realize, is on the stone Eliza found. They fit together. We place the stones on the governor's table. He does not question where they came from. He arranges them side by side and murmurs, "Every place holds a name it never speaks aloud. Perhaps we are learning to listen." That evening, we sit again by the fire. No one discusses walls. No one discusses fortifications. No mention of attack or survival. Instead, we speak of dreams, of birds that speak in poetry, of firelight that remembers faces, of footsteps that echo not in ears, but in bones. We speak of belonging, not as ownership, but as surrender. And as the fire crackles and the forest leans closer to hear us, I begin to wonder if this colony is not the planting of a nation, but the gentle return of something lost long ago. It begins with the children. At first, just a game, running down to the river each morning, chasing the steam that curls off its surface like the breath of a sleeping god. Their shouts echo through the mist, high and bright, but always softened by the fog, as though the island itself is muffling the sound to keep from waking something deeper. The river is not large, but it shifts subtly every day, bending in a new direction, deepening, swallowing stones that were there the night before. Daniel claims he saw it flow uphill. No one believes him, but no one laughs. Mary, the youngest, calls it the breathing water. The name sticks. We begin referring to it that way without meaning to. Even White, in his morning briefings, says, "Fetch water from the breathing side today, West Bank," as if the river has moods and lungs, and we have simply accepted it. One morning, the children return with handfuls of glimmering shells, translucent, delicate, unlike anything from this coastline. They say they found them arranged in spirals along the bank. Eliza inspects them. "Too smooth to be natural," she says, but her voice falters. That night, Thomasine strings the shells into a necklace for Mary. She begins speaking to someone none of us can see. At first, we assume it's a child's game, an imaginary friend. She calls him the boy in the mist. She says he doesn't talk with words, only points and hums, and brings her things: flowers that close when touched, feathers shaped like question marks, tiny fish made of smoke that vanish in her hand. Eliza forbids her from going to the river alone, but Mary always finds a way. Once we follow her. She skips lightly through the reeds, bare feet never slipping. She hums an unfamiliar tune, low, lilting, something with no rhythm, but all intention. At the bank, she stops, tilts her head, and says, "He's not here today. He's in the hollow place." "What hollow place?" Eliza asks. Mary smiles. "The one that used to be." We do not know what that means. Later, Daniel tells me he's seen things too, faces in the mist, just under the surface of the water. He says they look like ours, but not quite. Their eyes are too large. Their mouths are always closed. They're not dead, he says. They're before. When I ask what he means, he simply shrugs. Governor White begins to record the children's dreams in his diary. They describe places they've never seen, structures of wood and shell floating in fog, cities where no one speaks aloud, stars that fall upward. Sometimes their drawings match each other, down to the curve of a hill or the angle of a shadow, though they work in separate spaces. The river becomes a quiet obsession. Adults begin going there too, not to draw water, but to listen. The surface is nearly still, but the air around it hums faintly, like glass touched by a finger. I sit by the shore and close my eyes. It does not sound like water. It sounds like breathing, long, slow, patient. Once I place my hand just above the surface, not in, just above. The air is cold, but there's warmth beneath it, a current of something I cannot name. Not wind, not heat, memory, perhaps. Eliza forbids Mary from returning entirely. The next day, Mary disappears. Her tent is untouched, no footprints, no torn fabric, no signs of struggle. Just her necklace of shells, coiled carefully beside her pillow, and a single feather, half black, half white, tucked into the bedding. Eliza searches the river first, then the forest, then the sky. The others help, quietly, methodically, but no one raises their voice. It's as if we all understand that noise would only drive her further into whatever place she's gone. Governor White does not order a manhunt. Instead, he writes in the diary for hours. He emerges pale but calm and says only, "We must remain gentle. She may be with them now." Who they are, he does not say. That night, the river glows faintly, not brightly, just a shimmer, like moonlight caught in a dream, even though the sky is clouded. Thomasine walks to the edge and sings a lullaby no one taught her. It rises in a key we cannot follow, like a thread pulling upward into silence. When she returns, she whispers, "She's not lost." No one asks how she knows. Days pass. We plant less, we gather more. Things appear in camp now without warning, fresh fruit in baskets we didn't weave, Clean water in bowls left unattended. No one sees who brings them. The children no longer play loudly, but they move with purpose, as if following a rhythm we have yet to hear. Merrick speaks of a pact. A quiet agreement, he says one evening, staring into the flames, not signed or spoken, just breathed. White does not disagree. He says the Croatoan believed in thin places, gaps between worlds, where the air ripples and memory seeps upward like steam from cracked earth. He says Roanoke may not be a place, it may be a threshold. I begin to believe him. That evening, I walk to the river once more. The mist is heavier, the water still. And just beneath the surface, I see her, Mary, eyes open, mouth closed, hair fanned out like a halo. She doesn't move, but she isn't drowning. She simply is. Her hands drift gently upward, palm facing mine, a breath of distance between skin and surface. I do not touch her. Instead, I whisper, "Are you well?" And from the trees behind me, a voice, neither male nor female, answers softly. She is held. I turn, nothing. When I look back, the water is empty. I return to camp and say nothing. We sleep easily that night. No one dreams. The trees begin to speak. Not in the way of wind rustling through leaves or birdsong echoing in the canopies, but through the surface of the bark itself, along the trunks of the older pines, those that form the natural border between the camp and the deeper woods. Letters appear, not carved, not painted, just there. One morning, as the sun climbs slowly through the haze, I follow Merrick along the southern path, where the fog lingers thickest. He stops short beside one of the older trees and reaches out. "Look," he says. I do. The bark bears a single word, Croatoan. It's not fresh, not bleeding sap. It looks as though it has always been there, weathered into the grain, like a scar from birth. The letters are English, our alphabet, but written in a style I do not recognize. Serifs long and curling, lines too elegant for hasty survival work. We stand in silence for a long time. The word had been there before, of course, carved into wood when the first colony vanished. A final trace, a question. But this isn't a message left by us. This feels like a message meant for us. I run my hand across the word. The bark is strangely smooth beneath the letters, as if the tree grew around the shape instead of resisting it. A faint hum resonates in my palm. I pull away gently. That day, we find 7 more, each on a different tree, each facing inward toward the camp, as though watching us. Some say Croatoan again. One says only, "Return." Another bears a symbol, a simple spiral with a cross through its center. Daniel draws it in the dirt beside the fire. "I've seen this in my dream," he says. "It means open or stay, maybe both." The others nod slowly, as though remembering at the same time. Thomasine begins keeping a tally of the markings in her own ledger. The symbols shift subtly. Some repeat, others appear and then disappear days later. The trees seem to change with us, adapting their language as if in dialogue. White studies them carefully. He no longer writes in the governor's diary. Instead, he listens. He walks the perimeter of the camp every dawn, pressing his ear to the trunks like a physician checking for breath. He says he hears echoes, not words, but footsteps, far away and faint, as though someone is walking through us from the other side of time. One tree near the river bend bears the word daughter. It stands alone. Eliza finds it. She kneels beside the roots and weeps softly, not from grief, but recognition. She was always meant for this place, she whispers. From that day on, Eliza begins to sing as she works, songs without language, notes that spiral, loop, and dissolve. The children follow her, learning the melodies by instinct. Soon, the air around the camp is threaded with their voices, gentle, ceaseless, like the forest's own breath. Not everyone adapts. A man named Hugh begins to unravel. He scratches at his skin and claims the trees are stealing his memories. He says he dreams of a cave beneath the island filled with mirrors that show nothing but teeth. He begs to be sent home. There is no ship, no sails, no compass that would know how to leave. One morning, Hugh is gone. His tent is flattened as though it had simply collapsed inward. In its place, a ring of charcoal and stones, the ground cool to the touch, though no fire had been lit. Governor White writes nothing about it, but he marks a new line in the dirt near his quarters. A single word, willing. I do not ask what it means. The sky has changed as well. Clouds drift lower now, hovering just above the tree line. Their color has deepened, not gray, but silver blue, like water seen from the inside. Sometimes, at dusk, we see flickers of light within them. Not lightning, something slower, pulsing, deliberate. Thomasine says they remind her of lanterns beneath ice. At the center of camp, where we once kept our firewood, a small tree has begun to grow. We did not plant it. It pushes upward through the packed dirt, its bark pale, its leaves soft and thin like moth wings. It has grown a foot in 3 days. We decide not to cut it. It doesn't seem right. Instead, we build around it, like a shrine. Eliza hangs bits of ribbon from its branches. The children place stones at its roots. Merrick says it hums at night, a sound like breathing and wind chimes blended into one. One morning, I wake before dawn and walk the camp alone. The mist is thick and cool, wrapping gently around my shoulders. At the edge of the forest, I find a new mark, different from the others. This one is shaped like an eye, open and unblinking. Beneath it, sea. I stare at the symbol for a long time, not fearful, not confused. Seen. That is how it feels. And then, just for a moment, I understand. Not in words, not in reason, but in presence. We are not being watched. We are being witnessed. As if the island itself is recording us, inscribing us into its bark and soil, the same way we once carved names into school desks and church pews. This land does not forget. It remembers us before we arrived, before we were born, before we were. The letters on the tree begin to shimmer faintly in the morning light. I reach out, not to erase them, not to claim them, but to acknowledge. My fingers touch the bark. It is warm, alive, waiting. We do not gather to say goodbye. There is no farewell, no speeches, no waving from the shore. Just the hush of morning mist and the soft creak of wooden planks under Governor White's boots as he steps onto the small rowboat tethered loosely to the dock. The water is calm, impossibly still, like the surface of a mirror that has forgotten how to ripple. His face is unreadable. He looks not at us, but toward the open channel, where the distant horizon blends seamlessly with the sea. It is not a place one sails toward. It is an idea, a direction, a hope painted in fog. No one asks why he is going, because deep down we all understand. The plan, as it once drawn, had always included a return to England, resupply, reinforcements, proof of purpose. But that plan belonged to another season, to a version of this colony that no longer exists. Still, he goes. He leaves behind his coat, his ledger, the diary. He takes with him only a small pack, a sealed letter, and a piece of bark etched with symbols no one else can read. Thomasine is the last to speak with him. They stand near the central fire pit, now ringed by stones that have begun to sink slowly into the ground, as if being absorbed. I watch from a distance, catching only the rhythm of their voices, not the words themselves, but the lull and pull of conversation that carries more weight than language. When they part, Thomasine touches his cheek, not with affection, but acknowledgement, a ritual of letting go. He does not look back. As the boat drifts from the dock, the wind picks up ever so slightly. The water barely moves, yet the vessel glides smoothly, as though drawn by an unseen current. White does not row. He simply holds the tiller and allows the tide, or something deeper, to take him. By mid-morning, he is gone. The sea swallows the shape of the boat, then the shadow of the sail, then the idea of his presence entirely. The sky grows brighter, then stills. Even the gulls fall silent. Back in camp, no one rushes to resume their chores. We move more slowly now, not from fatigue, but from awareness. Each task is deliberate. The pounding of grain, the shaping of wood, the mending of cloth. These are not acts of survival, they are rituals, memory made by motion. The children no longer ask questions. They seem to know what the adults only suspect, that the shape of the colony has changed, not physically, but spiritually. The lines between purpose and place, between history and dream, have grown soft, like parchment left too long in rain. Eliza begins speaking in half-phrases. Not nonsense, not quite. Her words drift into metaphors, incomplete sentences that trail into pauses, heavy with meaning. "The wind remembered me today," she says one morning, "but not my name." No one corrects her. Merrick walks the edges of the camp each dusk, carrying a piece of driftwood carved with symbols. The shoots are thick, green, and unusually tall for the time of year. No signs of pests, no need for excessive watering. The ground itself seems eager. Thomasine jokes that the soil must like us more than we like it. Her smile is light, but I catch the flicker of uncertainty behind it. At the edge of the fields, strange plants appear. Tall, waxy stalks with flowers like open mouths, their petals red as bruises. None of us planted them, yet there they are, swaying softly without breeze, as if nodding in agreement to something unspoken. One afternoon, Merrick and I dig a trench for runoff. Our spades hit something dense. Not stone, not wood, bone. A long femur, yellowed with spiral carvings etched faintly into its surface. The symbols are geometric, triangles within circles, interlocking arcs. Not European, not clearly tribal. I want to show the governor, but Merrick insists we rebury it. He says, some things are better kept beneath us. He murmurs as he walks, sometimes laughing softly, as though sharing a joke with the trees. Thomasine has taken to writing on stones, short verses, reflections. She places them near the roots of trees, at the edges of the paths, beside the river. When I ask her why, she says, the island keeps better track of us this way. The fire pit becomes the center of silence. We gather around it often, not to cook or warm ourselves, but to listen, to stare into the coals and feel something settle in our bones. It is not fear, nor peace, something between, a hovering awareness, like the moment before a bell rings. The young ones speak less of the boy in the mist and more of dreams shared. They recount visions of white, not aboard a ship, but walking across water toward a city built entirely of sound. A city that sings its own name so softly that it forgets what it means, even as it speaks. The dreams are not strange anymore. They are instructions. I begin to write less in my own journal. Words seem unnecessary. They fall short. The ink no longer satisfies. Instead, I draw shapes, arcs, spirals. The eye motif returns again and again. It watches not with judgment, but patience. Sometimes I find stones with my drawings already on them, though I never recall placing them. A small sapling now grows where White's tent once stood. Its leaves are silver green, shimmering even in shadow. Its roots are shallow but strong. The children water it each morning without being told. On the 7th day after White's departure, the mist does not lift. It thickens, not oppressively, but gently, like a veil being drawn. Visibility shrinks, but not unpleasantly. The world grows smaller, softer, quieter. We speak in whispers without realizing. That night, the stars do not appear, but we feel them, pulsing softly in the mist above us, like lanterns behind silk. We sit by the fire, though no one tends it. It burns on its own now. No wood, no smoke, just light. That night, the dream comes again. I walk not on earth, but on pages, hundreds of them fluttering and warm underfoot. As I step, the ink rises into the air and forms whispers, voices, that speak not in sentences, but in weather. A thunderclap becomes a name. Rain becomes regret. Wind becomes memory. When I wake, my hands are stained faintly with what looks like soot. Others are having dreams now too. Eliza says she hears her mother's voice calling from the woods, though her mother died in Devon 2 years ago. Thomasine swears she dreamt of walking backward through her own birth. Governor White confesses that in sleep he sees the Queen's court, empty, abandoned, dust-covered, and lit by candlelight from beneath. The dreams are not frightening. They are familiar in ways we cannot explain. There is a moment midweek when we all gather around the center fire. It's not planned, it just happens, as if some shared instinct draws us inward. The air is cooler, the firelight soft, and no one speaks for a long time. And in that glow we see things, fleeting, shapes that might be people, or memories, or echoes of both. Children running, voices laughing, a figure with a feathered headdress, another cloaked in smoke. We do not point, we do not startle, we simply see. And then, nothing. Just the fire and silence. I wake once in the night to the sound of my name being spoken, softly, by someone not present. It is not frightening. It is a reminder. White is gone, but not lost. Perhaps none of us are. Perhaps departure is not an ending, but a step sideways into another way of being remembered. The storm arrives without warning. Not a typical thunderclap, not a crack of lightning splitting the sky. There is no crescendo. It is a silent change, a subtle thickening of the air, a pause in the wind, as if everything in the world has held its breath at once. We do not speak of it, we feel it. The camp begins to shift again, subtle at first, like the ground slowly leaning, as though we stand at the edge of something that will tip, but not fall. The trees move closer to the circle of tents, their branches bending with a heaviness that does not match the gentle breeze. The river slows. And then a message arrives, not from a messenger, not from any ship, but from a piece of driftwood, washed ashore at the southern edge of the camp, carried by the water itself. It is smooth, worn, with carvings deeply etched into its surface. The marks are familiar, Croatoan again, though more intricate this time, as if telling a story no one has heard. We gather around the wood, each of us drawn to it without knowing why. As we circle, the same question hovers between us. Who brought this? The air around the wood hums, faint but steady. Merrick steps forward first. It's a sign, he says, almost as if convincing himself. A message meant for us, from the past, from those who were here before. But before we can speak further, a child approaches. It is Mary's sister, who had not yet spoken since Mary disappeared. She holds out her hand and traces the markings with her small fingers. "Do you see it?" she asks, her voice low, almost dreamlike. "The faces in the wood?" We all lean in. There, just beneath the carvings, are outlines, ghostly shapes that shift and waver, never quite solid, but never fading either. Faces, yes, but without expression, eyes wide, mouths open in silent sound. Their features flow in and out of the grain like memories just out of reach. Then, one by one, the faces stop moving. They settle, and they are us, each of us. The circle around the wood grows tighter as we gather in silence. The faces look up at us, eyes wide with something beyond recognition. I do not know how long we stand there. Time stretches. I feel as if I am both outside and within the circle, watching myself in the same way one might gaze at a dream, detached yet helpless to move, to intervene. After a long while, the faces blink. It is not the same as waking, more like the soft closing of an eyelid. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, the wood tilts in the direction of the river, as though guided by an unseen hand. I can hear the faint sound of something else, a hum, as soft as the ripple of the water, but it is not the same as before. It is a deeper hum, a pull, something beyond the surface. Is it calling us? I ask, though I do not know to whom I speak. Thomasine stands quietly at my side. It's not calling us. Her voice is steady, but something in it trembles. It's waiting for us. I step forward, drawn irresistibly toward the driftwood. Its smooth surface feels warm beneath my palm. The moment my fingers touch it, a strange heat spreads up my arm, then dissipates, leaving behind only the impression of its presence. For a moment, I think I see something else. A figure in the mist, tall, cloaked, its face obscured, but its hands, held out in greeting, glowing faintly. But when I blink, the figure is gone. The faces in the wood disappear too. The carvings remain, but they are no longer filled with the impressions of those who stand before them. Now the markings are just lines, simple, unremarkable, like the grooves in any other piece of driftwood. And yet, the air feels different. We stand there in quiet stillness. Even the children, who usually speak in constant chatter, are silent. They watch us without blinking, their faces soft with understanding they cannot name. The storm approaches again, but this time it is not a single pressing storm. It is something more subtle. The sky grows dark, but not with clouds. It is as though the air itself turns thick, drawing in the world around it. And then the hum rises. Not from the driftwood this time, but from deeper within the island. The trees seem to lean toward it. The ground quivers beneath our feet, barely perceptible, but unmistakable. There are no words, only the hum. It lingers until it is too much to bear. I walk into the woods, not away from the camp, but deeper into the forest itself. The path seems to open before me, though it is not clear. The trees part as though guiding me forward. Behind me, I hear the others following, not out of fear, but out of curiosity. The air around us grows heavy, damp, but not unpleasantly so. It is like walking through a dream, slower, softer, as if the island itself is allowing us passage, but only on its terms. And then we reach the clearing. It is not a place I've ever seen before. A circle of trees stands at its edge, their trunks twisted in ways that should be impossible, intertwined like lovers, like old memories. The center is open, yet it feels contained, like the eye of a storm, calm and still. In the middle of the clearing is a stone, large, smooth, and worn with age. Around it there is an arrangement of flowers, small white petals, arranged in concentric rings, each one a little smaller than the last. And in the center of it all, another mark, not carved into the stone, but woven through it as though it were part of the stone's natural pattern, the spiral. I kneel and place my hand on the stone, a pulse, like a heartbeat. I feel it in my chest, and I know now that we are not lost. We are not meant to be found. The island does not seek us to stay. It only asks that we remember, and that we listen. The world outside the circle of trees is a distant memory now. The camp feels like an echo of another time, one we no longer have the words to describe. It is not that we have forgotten our purpose, but that our purpose no longer seems relevant. Time drips like rain, and our memories shift like sand underfoot. Each day feels like a conversation that never quite reaches its conclusion. We no longer speak of White's departure. He is not lost, but he is not here either. His absence is a shadow, but it does not frighten us. The mist that lingers over the land has thickened, and yet it no longer feels oppressive. The air hums, not with tension, but with a quiet invitation, as though the island is asking us to surrender to it. And so we do. The forest around us is no longer just trees. It is a presence, a part of us, as if we too have begun to root ourselves into the soil. The markings on the trees have spread, stretching further into the woods, curling around the trunks like veins beneath skin. Some are still familiar: Croatoan, return, daughter. But others have shifted, morphed into patterns that we cannot decipher. They are written in languages we don't know, but they feel like truth, like something that speaks from before us, before even our memories. The children speak less and less. At first, it seemed strange, their silence, but now we understand it as a kind of reverence. They no longer ask questions, no longer beg for stories to fill the emptiness. Instead, they move with purpose, collecting twigs and stones, arranging them in quiet patterns we do not fully understand. Thomasine watches them. She says they are making offerings, though she does not know to whom or to what. The fire in the center of camp burns on, though we no longer tend it, we no longer need to. It grows brighter each night, though no wood is added. The flame dances differently now, taller, more intense, but without heat. It casts no shadows. Its light simply fills the air, shifting with the wind as though alive. And there, in the heart of it, something new appears. Not a face, not a form, but a presence. I do not speak of it, but I am not the only one who feels it. We are all drawn to the fire, though we do not understand why. It is not warmth that calls us, nor a need for light, but something deeper, something older that stirs in our bones. The fire hums, low and slow, like the voice of the island itself, speaking in a language none of us can understand, but all of us feel. One night, as the fire flickers, a figure appears in the mist beyond the camp. It is cloaked in shadows, its face obscured, but its shape is familiar. It looks like the figure I saw in the trees, the one with the feathered headdress. It stands still, watching us. But we do not run. We do not call out. We simply wait. And then, as quickly as it appears, it is gone. There is no sound, no movement, only the slow fading of its shape into the mist. But I feel its presence linger, like a memory that won't leave, not fully. I turn to the others, and their faces mirror mine, quiet but not fearful. We are no longer afraid of what we do not understand. The island does not frighten us. It has become a part of us. We sleep more easily now, not because we are no longer aware of the strange events unfolding around us, but because we have learned to listen to them. The dreams come more frequently, but they are not frightening. They are simply memories. In my dreams, I walk among the trees, tracing the markings on the bark. I hear the whispers, not in words, but in the rustling of leaves, in the shifting of the earth beneath my feet. I know in these dreams that I am not alone. There are others with me, figures, faces, voices, all from different times, different places, but somehow woven together in a tapestry that stretches back before any of us were born. We are part of something larger. I wake each morning with the feeling that the dreams are still with me, lingering at the edges of my thoughts. They are not mine alone. They are ours. And yet, as the days stretch on, the dreams begin to fade. Not abruptly, but slowly, like fog lifting in the morning sun. The whispers quiet, the markings on the trees become less distinct, the symbols fading with each passing day. The fire, once vibrant and full of life, grows dimmer, as if it too is losing its strength. But we do not panic. We do not fear the fading. We simply accept. I watch as the children continue their work, quietly gathering the offerings, twigs, stones, leaves, and placing them at the base of the trees. The forest seems to respond, as though acknowledging their presence. The air grows stiller, the world outside the camp quieter, as if the island is waiting for something to happen, something we have yet to fully understand. The mist rolls in heavier now, not just from the river, but from the earth itself. It rises in slow spirals, swallowing the camp, swallowing the trees, until the world beyond the clearing is a soft blur. The trees, once so solid, seem to fade into the mist, becoming something else entirely, a shadow, a silhouette, a dream of trees that never were. And then, one evening, as I stand by the fire and watch the last embers burn away, I hear it. A voice, soft, faint. It is not one of us. It is not a sound at all, but a presence, a hum, like the earth itself has spoken. The mist thickens, the trees shudder, and I know, at that moment, we are no longer waiting. We have arrived. We are part of the land now. We have always been. And the island, this place, is not a place at all. It is a memory, a dream that never ends. The day arrives when we no longer remember the last time we spoke of the world beyond. It has become a distant thought, fading like an echo in an empty hall. The idea of the colony, of ships, of England, of letters and returns, seems like a dream we once had, a dream of something that never truly existed. It is as though the world we once inhabited has slipped away, and now we are left with only this, the island, the mist, and the strange, quiet presence that has settled into our bones. The children no longer gather in groups to play. Instead, they wander the woods, drawn to places they cannot name, gathering items, stones, feathers, branches, which they leave in small offerings at the base of the trees. Each one is a quiet tribute to something we no longer have the words for. We watch them with an understanding that feels ancient. They are not lost. They are learning. The language of the island is taking root in them, even as it slowly fades from our memories. The trees are quieter now too. Their whispers are softer, as though the island itself has exhaled a long, slow breath, releasing its secrets into the wind. The carvings on the bark are still there, but they no longer glow with the same urgency. They are still present, still waiting, but they no longer demand our attention. The markings on the trees have become a part of the landscape, woven into the landscape, woven into the fabric of the earth like veins under skin. Thomasine walks among the trees each day, her hands trailing lightly over the bark, as though she is gathering something from the earth itself. She says she feels it, the presence, more strongly now. She says it is in the air, in the soil, in the water. "We are not guests here," she tells me one evening as we sit by the dying embers of the fire. "We are part of it." I do not know what she means, but I do not question her. There is a deep, quiet truth in her words, a truth that is not born of logic, but of something deeper, something older. The island is not merely a place where we live. It is a place that lives with us, through us, around us. It breathes in and out with us, pulling us closer with every passing day, until we no longer know where we end and it begins. The river has changed too. It no longer moves in the way rivers should. It is still, yet it flows, its surface as smooth as glass. The water reflects the sky perfectly, creating the illusion of an endless horizon. The children have begun to sit at the water's edge, staring into its depths for hours. Sometimes they talk, sometimes they do not, but their voices are soft, as if they are speaking to something just beneath the surface. One morning, I find Eliza by the river. She is sitting on a rock, staring into the water. She does not move when I approach, and for a moment I wonder if she has become a part of the landscape herself. She looks up at me, her eyes wide, as if she has seen something I cannot see. "They're coming," she says softly. I do not ask who. I do not need to. We have all felt it. The mist grows thicker, and the island holds its breath once more. The trees lean closer, their branches intertwining as though they are speaking to one another. The earth hums beneath our feet, and the wind stirs the leaves, whispering words we cannot understand. I see the figure again. This time it is not a shape in the mist, but a presence standing at the edge of the clearing. Its form is more defined now, more solid, but its face remains hidden. The feathers, the cloak, the shimmer of light around it, all of it feels familiar, as though it is part of something we have always known. I do not move toward it. I do not need to. The figure turns slowly and begins to walk toward the trees. As it moves, the mist parts before it, and I see the figures that follow it. Others standing in the shadows, their eyes fixed on us. The children do not speak, they simply follow. And so we do. We walk deeper into the forest, following the figures, guided by a pull we cannot resist. The trees open before us, their trunks bending slightly as we pass, creating a path we did not know was there. The air is still, but charged with something, something we have forgotten, something we are beginning to remember. The clearing is waiting. I feel it before I see it. A shift in the air, a stillness that settles deep in my chest. And then, in the heart of the forest, I see it. A stone, large and smooth, surrounded by a circle of trees. The earth beneath it is soft, and the air around it hums with a low, steady vibration. We gather around it. We do not speak. We stand in silence, our eyes fixed on the stone. And for the first time, I understand. The island has not forgotten us. It has been waiting for us, waiting for this moment when the land and the people would become one, when we would no longer be apart from it, but a part of it. The stone is not a marker. It is not a boundary. It is a bridge, a connection. I place my hand on it, and the hum rises within me, filling every part of me. I feel it in my bones, in my heart, in my mind. The connection stretches outward, pulling us closer, until we are no longer separate from the land, from each other, from the island itself. We are the island. We always have been. And as the mist swirls around us, I know that this is not an end. It is a beginning that stretches back to the moment we first arrived and forward into eternity. The island has become a part of me. There is no other way to describe it. The air, the soil, the trees, they are no longer outside me. They are within me. I feel them in my chest, in my veins, in my every breath. The land does not feel like something I have conquered, or even something I have discovered. It feels like something I have always known, a place that I was always meant to return to, even before I had a name. The others have felt it too. Thomasine no longer speaks of the colony we once planned to build. The idea of it seems absurd now, like a story told long ago, a story that never quite reached its end. We do not need to build anything here. We do not need to claim anything. The land is not something to be tamed. It is something to be remembered. The mist has thickened, but it no longer feels like a barrier. It feels like a blanket, a soft, welcoming shroud that wraps around us, protecting us. The island breathes with us, and we breathe with it. There is no separation, no division between land and people. We have become part of the same rhythm, the same pulse. The children are the first to understand this completely. They no longer play in the ways they once did. They no longer ask for stories or games. Instead, they wander the woods, tracing the patterns on the trees with their fingers, listening to the whispers of the wind. They gather flowers and stones, placing them in quiet patterns around the clearing. They have become the island's caretakers, not by choice, but by necessity. They understand, in a way we cannot yet fully articulate, that they are the guardians of something that exists beyond time. Eliza speaks less now. She spends her days weaving tapestries from the fibers of the trees, each one more intricate than the last. She says they are not just cloth, but maps. Maps of the island, maps of memory, maps of time itself. She says the threads do not lead outward, but inward, weaving through the layers of time, touching places and people that are no longer here. One evening, as the fire flickers low, she whispers something to me. "It's not that we were lost," she says, her voice soft but sure. "It's that we were never meant to be found." We came here not to build, but to remember. This island, it is our memory, and we are its keepers. The words feel like a key turning in a lock, and in that moment I understand. We have not disappeared. We have become part of the land, part of its story. We were always meant to be here, always meant to be a part of this place. The island does not need to find us. We were never lost. We have simply been waiting. In the days that follow, I walk the woods more often. The trees are taller now, their branches twisted into shapes that resemble faces. The markings on the bark have become clearer, more distinct, as though they are speaking directly to me. They no longer seem like words, but like memories. Memories of a time before us, memories of a people who lived here long ago. The Croatoan, perhaps, or something older, something that preceded them. The island remembers them, and it remembers us. One afternoon, I sit by the river, watching the water shimmer in the fading light. The river no longer feels like water. It feels like memory. Its surface reflects not just the sky, but everything that has ever been. Every moment, every thought, every dream. I see faces in the water, our faces, the faces of those who have come before us, the faces of those yet to come. I do not fear them, I welcome them. And then I understand. We are not just a part of the island, we are part of its memory, its dream. We are not its rulers, nor its caretakers. We are its story, a story that has no end, no beginning, a story that exists outside of time, outside of the need for a beginning or an end. Perhaps that is why White left us. Perhaps that is why he did not return. Perhaps he knew in his heart that we would not need him. We would not need anything but the island itself and the memory of those who walked here before us. The island does not need ships or letters or plans. It only needs those who are willing to listen, to remember, to become part of the land. And so we remain, not lost, not forgotten, but waiting, waiting for the time when the island will breathe again, and we will become part of its story once more. In the end, we are not the ones who disappeared. We are the ones who remembered. We are the ones who returned. The land does not forget, and neither do we.